Great. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We can wait another minute, maybe. Did Joya? Sorry, did Trustee Drawings not coming or?
The last I heard was
Okay, and then, oh, that's not good.
Okay, I guess we're not doing
Oh, wow.
Move it back down.
Yeah, that's a little powerful. And I know Trustee Thomas was not feeling good. So he just said he wasn't feeling good. He probably wouldn't make it. So yeah, we could leave it, but they're probably not going to be there. Unless you guys want to move over, you want to leave it. It's up to you. Just leave it. Yeah. You think just leave it? You think it's better to just leave it? It's going to be too much. Yeah, because they're not going to be here. Just leaves a big gap. Okay, as soon as Trustee Washington joins us, we'll start. Do you guys want to move over? Or, oh yeah. Ms. Washington, do you want to, I'll give her the option to move and then we'll start the meeting. What time is it? 7:02, huh? And Ann, that's a good idea, yeah. Trustee Washington? Do you want to sit over here? Trustee Drogic and Thomas are not coming. Maybe you and our Ms. Ann will, oh, you said you like your seat? Yeah, and Ann, you want to sit over here with us so you're closer to us? Thank you so much. And then that's right, when Carol arrives, she can sit over here too. So it's not like a big gaping hole. Thank you. Yeah, whenever I don't know when she's coming. She's probably on the way. It feels different. Trustee Warner will tell you, back in the day, I used to move seats just to make people sit in different places. I used to sit in someone else's seat at the work sessions. Okay. All right, we're live, Steve? Okay, great. Good evening. It is Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. This is our work session, and I'm going to call the meeting to order now at 7:03 p.m. I ask if everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the open public hearing for the 2022-2023 budget. So we're going to open the hearing now. Is there anyone that would like to speak or has signed up for speaking at the hearing? No?
I move that we open the public hearing for the 2022-23 budget.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. So the hearing is now open. There are no speakers. Does anyone on the board have any comments or want to share anything about the budget? Yes, Trustee Pineda?
Yeah, I would just like to thank the administration for the hard work put into this budget. I know we went through several iterations to get it to where it is. I strongly feel that it's a nice balance between fiscal responsibility while still taking a good perspective on our future and long-term planning. So thank you very much for the work and the effort on this.
Anyone else want to give any comments? Ms. Raymond? We have a presentation. Oh, I would love to see the presentation. Thank you.
It's at your seat.
Okay.
Okay, so good evening. This is the 2022-23 budget presentation. Central administration has built this budget addressing our student needs and being cognizant of the local, state, and national economies that would impact our taxpayers. We will start on page 2 with an overview of the tax cap calculation. The tax cap begins with the tax levy passed for the 2021-22 school year, which was $62,453,090. To this figure, you apply the tax-based growth factor, which is a measure of the change in real property value due to construction and capital improvements of real property within our district. For this calculation, that was 1.0147, as provided by the Office of Real Property Taxes, which was an increase from the previous year's growth factor of 1.0089. You then add the payments in lieu of taxes, also known as pilots, which are payments that a company or developer agrees to make to the school district instead of paying property taxes due to their tax-exempt status. We subtract any capital tax levy exclusions, which would be any debt service payments the district has or BOCES capital expenses that the district is liable for. Currently, the Greenberg Central School District has no debt service for construction, but does pay a portion of Southern Westchester BOCES capital expenditures, which was $37,825. To this total, you apply the allowable levy growth factor, also known as the Consumer Price Index, or CPI, which is used to measure the change in the cost of basic goods and services. A district is only allowed to apply, by state education law, the lesser of CPI or 2%. This year's CPI was 4.70%. Therefore, the district is restricted to the cap of 2%, which is converted to 1.02. The pilots expected in the 2022-23 school year are subtracted since these companies will not be receiving a tax bill, but will be making a contribution to the tax base. If the total property taxes levied in the 2021-22 school year were less than the tax levy limit, a school district is permitted to carry 1.5% of the prior year levy limit over without exclusions. This amount is $952,891 and is provided by the Office of the State Comptroller. The capital levy exclusion for 2022-23 is the obligation the district has for the Southern Westchester BOCES capital portion of their budget. Since this is a known obligation, we add this back in. To remain within the simple majority of 50% plus one positive vote, the district could levy up to $65,599,068. In the green shaded box, you will see that we are proposing a tax levy of $63,369,015, which is significantly below the tax levy limit. We are proposing an increase of $915,925, which equals a 1.47% increase. On page 3, we'll look at the revenues, which include the tax levy, which is the largest of all the revenues. We are proposing $63,369,015 and represents 1.47%. The next largest revenue source is state aid. This school year, the state legislature has restored part of the long withheld foundation aid to school districts. The district also maximized its use of expense-driven aids, such as BOCES, to offset costs, which resulted in an increase of $325,569. The other revenues are categorized as miscellaneous revenues, which include sales tax, tuition, health and welfare billing, interest income, Medicaid, and prior year refunds. We have increased the amount of sales tax that we collect from Westchester County. We are also applying $2 million from fund balance to the budget. This gives us a proposed budget of $74,547,968, which is a little more than $1.5 million increase from this school year. In the 2021-22 school budget, we proposed repurposing monies to go to the capital fund for phase 1 construction, which was approved by the taxpayers. For the 2022-23 budget, we are proposing a transfer of excess fund balance from the 2020-2021 school year to also be placed in the capital fund for needed mansion repairs. There will be no impact to the taxpayers for these funds since they were included in the previous year's approved budget. On page 4, you will see that there are 6 major functions of a budget: general support, instruction, pupil transportation, employee benefits, debt service, and interfund transfers. This chart summarizes those expenses by each category to show a proposed budget before the transfer of excess fund balance to the capital fund. With the transfer, the budget will be $75,974,242. At this point, we will get into more detail of each of these functions. On page 5, you will see the general support function, which is for expenses for the Board of Education, central administration, operations and maintenance, some technology, and special items such as legal services, insurance, and BOCES administrative costs. The total general support for the 2022-23 school year is $8,920,028, which is a 2.46% decrease from this school year. This decrease represents salaries and refund of property taxes since most payments come from the tax certiorari reserve. On page 6, you will see the largest of the functions, which is for instruction. This includes the curriculum office, principal's offices, regular instruction, special education, instructional support, which includes summer school, technology, library, and educational TV. Pupil personnel services represent our psychologists, social workers, guidance counselors, and health services. The district will be investing in restorative practices, which would be a system-wide approach to building and strengthening relationships between staff and students. We have prioritized student achievement, social and emotional learning, including wellness, through restorative practice programs and curriculum that will incorporate and teach strategies to address various behaviors. To support these practices, we have included 3 new positions: a math coach, a literacy coach, and a resource room teacher. On page 7, you will see the next function, which is transportation. Our contracted transportation transports all of our students to all 5 of our school buildings and also includes transportation to private placements, BOCES, and private schools. Currently, we transport approximately 460 students to 65 different schools. We are proposing an increase of 4.09% for the 2022-23 school year. On page 8 is the employee benefits function. This includes the teacher retirement system, the employee retirement system, which both will increase next school year, Social Security, all insurances, and the Union Welfare Fund. The estimated increase for health insurance is 7%. This budget reflects just over $1 million increase in benefits. On page 9, you will see the last 2 functions, which are debt service and interfund transfers. A tax anticipation note is a municipal bond, usually with a maturity of less than 1 year, that is issued on the assumption that the debt will be paid back with future tax revenue. School districts issue these notes, usually at the start of the fiscal year, to maintain appropriate cash flow to pay immediate or time-sensitive obligations. The interfund transfers are for the federal fund and the capital fund. We are proposing to transfer $1.3 million to the capital fund for 2 gym floor replacements and the fire hydrant work that needs to be done at Woodlands campus. On page 10, you will see the budget shown as by object. Objects identify salaries and benefits, equipment, supplies and textbooks, contractual expenses, tuition, BOCES, debt service, and interfund transfers. You will see that salaries and benefits are the largest expense of this budget. There is also a large decrease in contractual expenses because these are now going through a BOCES. As you will see, there is an increase there, so we can maximize our BOCES aid for future revenue purposes. On page 11, by law, the district must divide their budget into 3 components at the budget hearing for the purposes of the taxpayers. These components are the administrative, program, and capital components, and we must show how each has increased compared to the total budget. The administrative component includes expenditures for office and administrative costs, salaries and benefits for certified school administrators and their staff, data processing, public information, legal fees, insurance, and school board expenses. For the 2022-23 school year, this component will increase by 3.58%. The program component is the largest of all the components, as it should be for instruction of our students. It includes salaries and benefits of teachers, teacher assistants, teacher aides, instructional support staff, and pupil personnel. Other instructional costs, such as supplies, equipment, textbooks, co-curricular activities, interscholastic athletics, staff development, tuition, and transportation are budgeted here. This also includes the federal interfund transfer. For the 2022-23 year, this component is increasing by 2.53%. The capital component covers tax certiorari and court-related costs, all facility costs, including salary and benefits of the custodial staff, service contracts, maintenance supplies, equipment, and all utilities. It also includes the capital interfund transfer. For 2022-23, this component is decreasing by 1.44%. This is because we have transferred costs to BOCES, again, to maximize our revenue. We show the repurposed interfund capital transfer and the excess fund balance transfer to the capital fund, since this would fall under the capital component as a separate item, since it will have no impact on the taxpayers. Under New York State law, a school board can, on page 12, under New York State law, A school board can submit a budget 2 times to the voters. If the proposed budget is defeated twice, the board must adopt a contingency budget. Under a contingent budget, the district may not increase the tax levy from the previous school year. Therefore, we would have to decrease this budget by $915,925. All non-contingent items must be removed from this budget, which would include most equipment, salaries not covered under collective bargaining agreements, and capital needs on transfers. A contingent budget would be $74,674,272. On page 13, you will see the estimated impact to taxpayers. Recently, the town of Greenberg did a reassessment of properties, as well as the sales prices of homes have increased. This combination increased the total assessment of the town. The average assessment of a single-family home increased by $59,000. The average tax increase would be approximately $494. On page 13, you'll see, as a reminder, the budget vote is May 17th from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the Woodlands Middle High School Gymnasium. Thank you. Are there any questions?
I have a question. So, thank you so much for giving us this information. So when we go on page 11, where it says 3-part budget, and we look at administrative, and the change looks like 3.58, but then programming is 2.53. So I would like to know, why is there more percentage going towards administrative than the program? So can you just explain the dollar change and why for administrative? I understand program.
Well, I would say one of the reasons is because we are flowing more through some of our federal grants, and we have the American Rescue Plan, the CRISA grants, and the CARES Act grants, and we are flowing monies through there, as well as we have reallocated some of the funds in the general fund to the federal funds to try to maximize more.
So this increase, the dollar change, is because of our federal grants and things like that?
The federal grants are separate from this budget. The increase here is basically, a good majority of it is salaries, but we have taken a good portion of our professional development and put that over into our grants, because we got that additional money.
Right, I guess, all right, so because of the grants, that affects administrative. That's what I...
No, the grants affect the program.
Right, I understand program. I don't mind programs increasing. I was just wondering, why are we increasing administrative, the dollar change? I just wanted to know why.
What the, I don't have to look that up.
Okay.
I can look it up and get back to you.
Okay.
Okay?
Are there any other inquiries, Trustee Valerie?
I believe you've explained this before, but I just need to get an understanding of the new position for the resource room teacher. I want to understand how that's different from an integrated co-teaching model. I understand that it's someone that goes with students to, could you just explain that position for me? Thank you.
So for integrated co-teaching, the ratio for students to teachers is 15:1. For a resource teacher, it's 5:1. So it's a little bit more intensive support for the student, above and beyond what they might get in a co-teaching setting.
And it's academic, it's not like a teacher's aide?
Academic.
Okay.
It is academic program.
Thank you. And, sorry. And would this person follow specific students, or would they float as needed?
It's based on,
in a particular year, I'm assuming you would look at what. Go ahead.
So it would be based on caseload, so it would have to be something that is part of a student's IEP, so that individual's caseload would not change unless a student's IEP indicates that they needed that person. Same way for entering and exiting. So if I began the school year with resource room on my IEP, I would maintain that program unless my IEP is modified. To change it, then I can be released. I think if I hear your question correctly. I think you're trying to ask, maybe I'm not hearing the question right, if it's more like a reading teacher where students can transition in and out based on how they grow. No, students may only transition in and out of receiving resource if it is taken off or added to their IEP. So once it's there, it is there unless an annual review or a program review deems that we can remove resource.
Okay, so this is at the higher level grades, or is this an elementary program? I'm still trying to figure out, is this a room where students go, or the teacher follows a certain group of students?
So,
Trying to understand the day of this position.
so we would like to pilot this next year at the middle school. So that's where we would start this. And resource can be push in or pull out. So let's just say at 11:35, period 2, well, that's not period 2, but let's just say period 2, X students have resource on their IEP, then they would go either to that person in a room, or that person would push into a classroom depending on the child's need. It's all dependent on the child's need.
Because those 5 students might not be all together.
Correct.
Right? Which is when it would, okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, they could all exit a room and be with that person separately if they all have the same gap in their schedule, right? So if I needed resource for, let's say, most of my support for ELA, but my ELA was period 3, and somebody else had it period 2, then we might be pulled out at a different time.
Okay.
Because we don't have that same block, if our needs are the same.
And when we say resource and that it's academic, we're not talking obviously, like OTPT, we're talking about like what we maybe used to call a math lab, or is it extra help in certain academic areas, or am I still not, I feel like I'm still not quite getting.
Correct, it's extra help, it's extra help in an academic area. So for example, let's say a child has more struggle with English language arts, and that child, it indicates in their IEP that they would be more successful if they had visual supports, graphic organizers. So in the resource room, they would receive support from the teacher on how to put their ideas on the graphic organizer and then create paragraphs out of it. So it is academic in nature. I'm refraining from just acknowledging the math lab piece because that predates me, and I'm not sure exactly what math lab was, but it is definitely an academic program.
Okay.
And it also embeds some things of executive functioning as well. I'm having students be better with organizing their work and things like that.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Trustees, and Trustee Warner?
Not to put too fine a point on it, could you also go over with the duties of the reading and math coaches?
So our reading and math coaches will primarily be helping us to facilitate our professional learning community, so meeting with the teachers to review the various data sets that we have available. And then once we take apart those data sets, what is it that we need to do for students, either by enriching the curriculum or providing more interventions for students. So that would be their first and primary role. Certainly, one of the things that we'd like to begin next year is having intervisitations where teachers go visit each other and then maybe visit each other in different schools in our district. And so helping to coordinate that as well. Coordinating professional development in the content area. So for example, how we have professional development related to the writing revolution, the ELA coach would organize that. We have received a lot of feedback from our teachers requesting some math interventions, and I had spoken about that a couple of times now, where we'd like to be at that level where when we diagnose a student's needs in math, we have an appropriate math intervention. So then once we identify those interventions, again, setting up the appropriate training for the teachers so that they can implement those interventions with fidelity. Those are some of the pieces. I'm just trying to think of all the, and then also helping our teachers understand how to fully integrate the technology resources that we have in the content areas.
Trustees, Trustee Washington?
So I'm going back to the literacy coach and the math coach, because when I hear the word coach, I hear that they're going to be working with teachers to hone in on their craft, to give them some professional development, to help them with strategies so that they will impact like the student achievement. Is that part of it, or is it just they're really being a coordinator for PLC and that's not part of it?
No, that is actually the core of their work, is helping them to do all of those things. The professional learning communities would be the avenue in which they execute those, I guess, deliverables, for lack of a better description of it.
And will they visit classrooms?
Absolutely.
And do they have an administrative, are you looking for someone with an administrative degree, or just someone going in just as a coach, just as a thinking partner for the teacher?
These would be teacher peers, so we have positioned these vacancies as members who would be part of the GTF.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I think Dr. Iverson wanted to also add
No,
something.
I just wanted to add, yes, the coaches will be a part of the GTF. They will work very directly with the teachers, and in addition to what Dr. Macaluso said, they will also model lessons in classrooms. So if a teacher, as we're rolling out our math strategies that we're working on right now, they will be experts in this. So the people we're going to be interviewing will be very high-level master teachers in their field. And so they will be able to, as we roll out our strategies, not only lead the professional development, but go in and model. They are not administrators, so we can create that environment where teachers feel safe. And we all know from research, teachers learn best from their peers. And that's the first person they would like to hear from, people who are in the seat doing the same work. So our coaches will be very closely working with them. They will not work with small groups and students. They will work with the teachers who are implementing those levels of instruction. So it's a different model.
Trustee Warner, look like you're going to say something.
So I assume that what happens is that there's not the force of a formal observation, but there is actual observation of the things that they're discussing in the PLC meetings in the classroom, so they're in touch in that way. Am I correct?
That's correct. But sitting down and supporting with how to, giving the teacher more strategies and how to implement that, but not from an evaluative stance.
Great, thanks.
If I may, just one item, I was just quickly pulling up the draft job descriptions that we had created, and of course, certainly working with our Director of IB, ENL, and World Languages to make sure that we are threading the IB principles throughout all of our curriculum, and then kind of revising our curriculum maps to make sure that those themes and those strands are embedded throughout, as well as, yep, I think those are, yep, thank you.
I'm sorry, the coaches will be revising the curriculum maps? No.
No, they will be helping teachers create curriculum, and so they would be coordinating and helping and guiding teachers to revise curriculum so that our IB learner profiles are threaded throughout the ELA and math content areas.
Will the coaches be trained in IB?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions, trustees? I do have a question, but I want to, okay, so I do have a question about the percentage change in pupil personnel. Turning to you, because it's under curriculum. There's a negative 4.68%, so either, I guess, Dr. Macaluso or Ms. Raymond, I don't know if there's certain grants or funding that are covering this. You know, that's a concern. I turned to the page when Trustee Washington asked the question about administration, so thank you for drawing my attention to that. That pupil personnel was negative 4.68%, so we're taking...
That, again, we're putting over to the federal grants.
Okay, so we're taking the funds
We're
not
not cutting anything out. We're moving through between two funds.
Okay, wonderful. But another question. After those funds have ended, whether they're ESSER, APR, ARP, American Rescue Plan, thank you. Whether it's one of those funds, when those end, do we reabsorb those costs?
Correct. We'll move it back to the general fund, try to absorb them back in slowly.
Okay.
Instead of a one wham.
Like, okay, great, thank you. Any further questions?
I just wanted, if Lisa, Ms. Raymond, if you can just explain to the community what happens if we go to a contingent budget.
Okay, if we have to go to a contingent budget, then we cannot raise the tax levy, which means we would have to make some cuts. We would have to cut at least that $915,925, if not more, if the board decided. And to cut anything that is that large would affect salaries, would affect personnel. So we would be able to, we would have to cut equipment, not all equipment, but the majority of the equipment. There are collective bargaining agreements, people who don't fall under collective bargaining agreements, so they wouldn't get an increase. Their salary would stay flat. And then the rest, we would have to decide what it is and where it is we would cut.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Any further questions, trustees? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. The hearing is now closed. Next on our agenda is A5 committee reports. Are there any committees with a report this evening? Trustee Pineda.
Okay. Good evening. The Safety and Technology Committee met on April 26th, 2022. The meeting was scheduled for 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The meeting was called to order at 6:09 p.m. In attendance were Carlos Ramirez, Ashley Pineda, Chris Vallon, David Warner, Lisa Raymond, Victoria Bolton, and Dr. Macaluso. The agenda, we covered the adoption of the previous meeting minutes. A status of technology at GCSD report was presented by Mr. Ramirez. He notified us that there has been notification of a data breach. Fortunately, the software that was affected and that was used for the breach is not currently used by the Greenberg Central School District, so there currently appears to be no impact to our district. But that information was still really new. I think he got notification the day before, so they were still performing due diligence. There was also an update on Southern Westchester BOCES fiber. Southern Westchester BOCES is upgrading all of their fiber network. So LightPath will be performing work to upgrade the main fiber at no cost to the district. This is part of their maintenance plan. All work is being done after school hours, and Mr. Ramirez will be circling back to assure that they are clear on what after hours means for us, so that there's no misunderstanding there. He provided an update on the current Southern Westchester BOCES tech support, how that's working out. We then moved into a conversation on the status of Chromebook replacement devices. But to this point, we're still working on updating partnering with parents to address the damaged Chromebooks. Thankfully, the level of Chromebooks being damaged has hit a low and is pretty much sustained at this point, so that's helpful. In terms of any students in need of a device, at this point, no students or faculty are in need of a device at this point. That covers the device update. From there, we covered the parent-teacher conference meetings technology feedback, Zoom testing of breakout rooms, and general Zoom applicability update. In terms of standardization of using Zoom as the platform moving forward for parent-teacher conferences, that's still being tested. Highview will be used as a test bed to see how that experience goes, and we'll get feedback in a further meeting. GCSD webpage was the next topic on the agenda. We had an update on the search engine results. If anyone remembers in previous meetings, the search engine results on the website would give you incomplete or provide no results when you typed into the field. That has been resolved. So that is completely fixed. Also, there is no further advertising when you run the searches. That has been addressed as well. In terms of the searchable personnel directory, which we were talking about, the conversation has been between all the school buildings. The Lee F. Jackson directory seems to be the most standardized approach that we think makes the most sense. Mr. Ramirez is reaching out to each of the principals to verify how information gets updated on the directories, etc. As part of the BOCES work being done with webmaster services and all that, optimizations will be looked at, and that's all conversations that are in progress. We also asked about potentially having the CEC gather feedback in the future meeting, so I'll be sending a request to the head of the CEC to request that they inquire as part of their committee, take a look at the Lee F. Jackson directory page and see if that covers everything that you would need if you needed to respond to reach out to a teacher or anything like that, see if there's any suggestions so that we can implement that in the future. In terms of the new instructional technology plan, so there is an instructional technology plan that the district maintains and has to be updated from time to time. The latest version of that is due on June 30th, 2022. We are at the beginning phases of that plan. Really, this year it looks like it'll be essentially a review of most of what's already in there with some updates, and that will be submitted in due time. We then moved on to safety open session items. We had an update on the student pedestrian safety. We had concerns in the past about the lights being out on the high school campus. That has been reviewed. It looks like at this point it's fully resolved. And Mr. Falcone went ahead and added 2 new lights as well at the widened path, so we can close that item out. In terms of the assigned seating on the bus, we're closing that item out as well. So previously, the assigned seating had been completed for pre-K through 6th grade, and we were waiting for an update on whether the middle high school would need to do the same thing. The middle high school at this point has decided that there's no need to do assigned seating, and everything is great the way it is, so that item's being closed out. Ms. Raymond then provided an update on the school safety symposium that was recently attended by the school safety officers. Feedback that was received by some of the SSO team was that it was a very helpful experience, and the team came back inspired and excited from the program. We then had an update on the high school vestibule that is part of the Smart Schools bond that we've been talking about for a while now. It is now in the final stage of approval. Additional documents were requested, and they have been submitted back to the committee that's deciding on that. So now we're just waiting for them to give some feedback. In new business, we had a brief conversation on the new webmaster or consultant that's been brought on board for a month. The concentration of this consultant will be looking at the back end of the website, looking at metadata, search result data for individuals that are no longer at the district, helping clean that up, and how are we orienting each of the tabs so we have uniformity, ease of navigation for directory listings, which I mentioned earlier is also being looked at. That contract with the consultant potentially could be extended depending on how things go in the future. Also, food service menus will be updated every month at the beginning of the month. There is a link to the food service in the main menu, as well as under the business office and department lists as well, so that's a little easier to find these days. And in terms of employee onboarding, we had a brief conversation on what the process is for getting trained for new employees, specifically when it comes to SSOs. The SSOs currently essentially are given local training in each building when they're onboarded, but that is a process that's going to be looked to be improved on in the future, so it's a more formalized onboarding process. Trustee Vallon made an observation that there were dogs off leash on campus with droppings potentially not being picked up, something we'll look at in the future. Then we had some talk about some areas where in the buildings where the new PA systems may have some audio issues or low volume. Follow-up will be done there. Mr. Ramirez advised of the team supporting the administration of the COGAT assessments and synchronization of rosters in grades 1 through 5. We also agree that during a future meeting, we're going to start talking about district-wide safety plan for the next year timeline, so we can start talking about that. Typically, a district-wide safety plan is reviewed annually and updated. In the past, we've been a little late with that plan. This year, we've made incredible progress in getting that close to the deadline, and our hope is that for next year, we'll have it ahead of schedule because we're working ahead at this point. From that point on, we went into a conversation on several safety-related closed session items. And when we came out of that area of the meeting was closed at 7:42 p.m. Any questions?
Thank you, Trustee Pineda. Any questions for the Safety and Technology Committee?
Okay,
No
thank you.
questions? Okay, wonderful, thank you. Any other committee reports? Trustee Vallon?
The Governance and Policy Committee met on April 28th. Attendees were Dr. Iverson, Ivy Krause, Tracy Maris, Carol Melnick, Ashley Patana, Chris Vallon, and Zachary Baker. After approving the minutes, we discussed a query from a community member at a recent committee meeting regarding inquiries about the budget process, and it was decided that we have 2 public meetings the next few days. I'll state them here. Tomorrow, Wednesday, May 4th at 10 a.m. You can watch and submit questions via the YouTube live chat. And Thursday, May 5th at 7 p.m., you can watch and submit questions via the YouTube live chat. You can also submit questions via the email address budget@greenbergcsd.org. And because of those possibilities for the public to submit questions, we are not taking written statements or live chat today, but we did have ability for the public to comment during that open hearing that we just completed. Okay, we also discussed an update to policy 1510 regarding our regular board meetings. There have been a few updates over the past few months regarding document disclosures and open meeting law. Draft policy is currently being reviewed by our legal and admin after some suggestions during the committee last week. The committee has recommended the following changes to that policy. that draft policy has been emailed to the board members because we would like to officially present it to the public at the regular meeting on May 24th. A summary of those changes were updates to the policy to reflect the requirements for the extraordinary use of video conferencing because our current COVID rules end at midnight on June 8th. Beginning on June 9th, all of our meetings need to be live and in person, including committee meetings. Additional updates to the policy were regarding the disclosure of documents, as I stated, and the removal of the restriction to public comments during work sessions. Currently, we state that during work sessions, public comments need to be related to the agenda. We never really stick to that, so the committee is recommending that we remove that wording from the policy. Okay, just another note to everyone on the changes. So effective June 9th, committee meetings will need to be in person. And the committee has recommended that those in-person meetings will be recorded and or live stream should take place in the TV studio, at least while we're confirming district resources for external cameras and some training so that we can record and live stream from other locations. I actually have a question on that. Do board members need to fill out a facilities use form for the TV studio for those committee meetings? Ms. Raymond is indicating that we do, so committee members or committee chairs, please start filling out your facilities use request forms.
So, so Trustee Warner, you said we have in the past. I know in the past we used to go through our district clerk. Are you saying that board members individually filled out the form?
I used to fill out forms for the CEC. Of course, we were bouncing around all the different schools. And then in addition to that, I also had a badge because people would, we would fill out the facility form and sometimes people would forget to leave the facility open and you couldn't get in. So, so the badges at that point were something that anybody who was a committee chair would have the ability to get into a building. Well, so we have to decide what we want to do about that.
Right. At one point, all of our district badges open the buildings, like you could scan it. So I don't know what's happening with that, but we also have a administrative liaison on the committee. So are you, it's a good question. Are you saying that the board member did that? I know you did that with CEC, but what about the other board members, or does the committee liaison, who is the administrator, ensure that that facilities request for that space is available? Do you know how all the committees worked at that point?
I don't know how every other committee in the group worked. Right. I know that some of the other committee chairs were former board presidents. So the question was, well, did they have they had the access? Did they have the access because they were former board presidents, or did they have the access because they were committee chairs?
Right.
You could make an argument about that.
Thank you. Trustee Pineda, Washington?
Yeah, so in all the committee meetings the committees that I chaired, I never filled out a facilities use form, but I presume the liaison was doing it on my behalf.
Trustee Washington?
I just have some concern in reference to committee meetings being in the TV studio. COVID isn't over, so that's a small space. So I think the committee needs to reconsider a location because that space is pretty small.
Trustee Washington, I did express concern, not necessarily about the space, but that the meetings be all in one place as opposed to the accessibility of other places. And the reason that I was given was that the filming equipment is there. And so in order for the meeting to be live streamed, that was most
Oh, so the video cameras don't roll to another room? Is that what we're saying?
If I may continue 2 more paragraphs and then come back to this, is that okay? Okay. So the second paragraph will be relevant. The Governance and Policy Committee further recommends that each committee make their own determinations whether they would record and live stream when they are fully in person. There is a requirement that you must record and live stream when you are partially virtual, which will come into play with the new policy. But the committee noted that since the Community Engagement and Communications Committee and the Finance and Facilities Committee are currently designated as district committees and are constituted of a greater number of public members than board members, those particular committees at this time are not subject to the requirements of open meetings law and can choose to remain both virtual And actually, they neither need to record nor live stream those committee meetings if so desired. So that may address, those are the bigger committees. And if that committee chooses to remain virtual, at least through the end of June, that may alleviate some of the space concerns with being in the smaller room. We were thinking, yes.
No, because I'm just remembering how we have board meetings in the cafeteria and they were live streamed. So I guess that's why I just have this wondering, why are we now confined to this TV studio? So I'm just wondering.
Technically, if we're meeting in person, we neither need to record nor live stream those board committees meetings. We were trying to strike a happy medium through the end of
Which
June,
I think is great.
Until we have another discussion for the new school year.
Trustee Pineda?
Bill, to answer your question more directly, my understanding is there's a district resource issue in terms of supporting the meetings now compared to in the past. So because of that, the suggestion was there are certain locations that are pre-set up where it's less resource intensive to get these meetings set up and all that. So along with that, during the committee meeting, we decided, hey, you know what, let's try to stick to the more practical places to record or live stream. So that's why the recommendation was the TV studio.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much, because I was not understanding being confined to that small area, the TV studio. So my thought is definitely to keep it a hybrid model, but I think, you know, that's live streaming. That's what you said. That's kind of, no, you're saying no?
I'm saying that as of
You
June
don't have
9th,
to.
the committees are supposed to meet in person.
So just to, I'm going to go through the list because we joined committees and then we separated committees. So the committees that have the option, those committees will make those that the governance and policy committee is recommending that these committees make their own decision on whether or not they go live, go in person or stay virtual.
No, I'm sorry. Everyone has to be
Right, that's what she
live
said, yeah.
if it's a board committee.
I know,
All
I
the
was going
committee
to
members
read
need to
the,
attend
I was
in
going to
person.
read the district
Okay,
committees.
sorry.
So these two committees have an option. The CEC, which is Community Engagement and Communications, and the Finance and Facilities. Those committees have an option. All the other committees, Audit, Educational Wellness, Governance and Policy, Governmental Relations, Safety and Technology, those committees must be in person. So, just for clarity. So the CEC and the Finance and Facilities, I guess, will decide if they want to stay virtual after June 9th.
And we'll vote on it.
So just to clarify again, so the committees that President Mayor's named, all committee members need to attend in person. The committee may choose to record and post later or live stream for public attendees, but the committee needs to meet in person.
Okay, that's sobering, because we've been in COVID and we've
I
been.
definitely understand what you're saying.
no,
and I definitely still, you know, think it's a small space.
Yes, I agree, I agree.
think that we need to,
Well, if it's any help.
but I do understand the resource part, but then I don't understand the resource part because I'm a taxpayer. So why do I have a resource issue, right? So why am I even going through this as a taxpayer? So that's just my own question. But I'm going to let you continue.
Okay, Trustee Valen.
Yes. To that point, we do hope to have more information before June 9th. Okay, moving on. So, recommendation, after checking to see if Erie One BOCES has a draft regulation, administration will create regulation procedures to regularly disclose documents on board docs available to the public when they are to be voted upon. We hope to have that information by our May 12th meeting, but it's a work in progress. There would be a training component with the district clerk and any backup staff regarding what sorts of items would remain confidential via redactions or whether it's entire documents. And we determined that there's no need to go back to publish older documents, but we do recommend that major collective bargaining agreements and other vendor contracts be unlocked as well as any documents that get requested via FOIL. And that decision on the older documents was made mostly because of resource issues. We don't want to have our district clerk spending the entirety of her work life unlocking documents from years prior. Okay. And then regarding policy 7410, curricular and extracurricular activities, the committee reminded administration of the need to complete an annual charter review with the board, ideally before those positions are posted and put to the BOE for approval, which may begin as early as June, although normally they don't happen until the fall. Next steps, we've contacted Woodlands Middle High School regarding the plan for the election of our new ex officio student member for the 22-23 school year. And we look forward to, within the next few weeks, creating a resolution authorizing remote attendance under extraordinary circumstances pursuant to the changes in the open meeting law. And that's all.
Thank you, Trustee Valen. Are there any items that the board needs to vote on this evening?
I don't believe so. I believe the draft policy has been provided, just as a heads up, because it's still being reviewed. But we do hope that in late May, we will have an item to discuss further.
Thank you so much. And are there any questions or comments? I did have a safety and technology, I'm sorry to go back, a question or topic that I wanted to bring up that maybe Ms. Raymond can also answer, especially since we just had the budget hearing. One of the questions that I have been posed by some of our residents are about the security staff, that we don't have as much security staff as maybe the residents may feel that we do. I, being on the board, know that we do have some vacancies. Can we speak to that? Is there any movement of that in the budget? Is it budgeted for the same amount of safety and security staff, or
Right,
what's going on there?
We didn't decrease any security staff in the budget for next year. There are some vacancies that do need to be filled. We have advertised. They have interviewed, some candidates. The pool isn't huge out there, and the SSOs, well, we don't need any SSOs. We have enough of those. So that test, I believe that test is old, but the security aides, that's a test. That test, we're waiting for that to be given also.
So just for clarity, there's SSOs with safety and security officers.
Right, that's the highest level
They
of our
have some
security team.
supervision.
Correct,
duties?
there's one in every school.
Okay, and then there's a SSA.
Nope, there's SSOs,
Okay.
and there's security aides.
Okay.
And security monitors.
Okay,
2 are tests, one is not.
thank you. Okay, are there any other committees?
Yes, I just have a question, because, you're saying the pool is small. How are we marketing ourselves? Are we going out to the local colleges? Are we dealing with BOCES? I mean, we can't just sit and wait for people to come to us. We have to go out there. We need to be a little bit more aggressive, because there's a lot going on in this world. So, like I said, prior to the resource of not being able to go to another room for a committee meeting, as a taxpayer, I want these positions filled. We just need to, as a district, do more. I mean, I'm not saying you're not doing anything, and I don't know what you're doing, because I'm not with you day by day, but we could say that all day. But there are people out there that need jobs. So how are we going out there? How are we partnering with the Greenburgh Police Department, the Fire Department? How are we going to the community center? We're going to Westchester Community College. There's so many resources around Greenburgh that can bring great employees to our district. So I'm not putting this on you, Ms. Raymond. I'm just saying vocally, we have to do more, because we can't keep these vacancies going on from September, and it's now May. So that's just me. This is not just you.
That's okay, and I have an
but
answer
I just want
for
this
you.
to be, noted.
We have instructed our HR person to go out, and she has been to job fairs at the Theodore Young Center. She's reached out to the NAACP, has been on their website to sign up. She has spoken with the town supervisor to post jobs at the town hall. She has advertised through other avenues around the district, for example, say in the post office, on bulletin boards. We are putting jobs on OLAS, both instructional and non-instructional, for people to see, where originally we were just putting instructional on there. She has reached out to local colleges to see when they're having their job fairs, such as Westchester County Community College, Pace University. She named another one that's another university that's closer to here. And we are considering trying to advertise in the Journal News, but the cost for advertisement is that in that paper is very expensive, so we're trying to negotiate a cost with them. Karen has also.
Do we have finances for it? Do we have money?
We do have advertising.
Okay.
But the cost for one day's advertisement in the Journal News is $1,795. We've negotiated with them, and we've got them down to, right now, $1,200. Hopefully, we can get them
But then
lower.
we can post not just for the security, we could post for other positions.
We could make one
Right.
large, right, exactly. She's also reached out to the American Association of School Personnel for guidance on how to hire staff. And we've asked, excuse me, the principals to put these things in their weekly update, excuse me, on our webpage, Facebook, and we've even considered having signs made up and posted on the lawns or something like that of every school.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Washington and Ms. Raymond. You know, trustees, this makes me think of our good old personnel committee that we no longer have, but I have a personnel question. Trustee Washington's questions inspired me. I work in a hospital, which is a business and medical model run business. However, they're really, since COVID, they're looking at quality of life for employees, and I know a lot of businesses have done that. A lot of businesses offer virtual work from home options. Obviously, as a school district, we can't just offer that option. But have we looked at more flexible schedules for some of our non-certificated staff members, not necessarily certificated staff members, but security personnel, cleaners, schedules, and offering some flexibility to consider quality of life? You know, some people that may have children may need to work different hours, but maybe still accomplish a job. Is there any quality of life room in hiring when it comes to those type of positions?
There definitely could be. We could look into it, certainly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? We were on the Governance and Policy Committee, but any other questions about that or comments, trustees? Hearing none, are there any other committees that want to give a report? No, but I do see our student ex officio member. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Ms. Panus. Trustee Warner?
Sure. The Finance and Facilities Committee met via Zoom on 4/27/22 at 6:30 p.m. In attendance were Ashley Pineda, Amy Ashley Moore, David Warner, Chris Fallon, Steve Morton, Jessica Muldoon, Fred Seba, Michael Falcone, Gabriela Barahona, Lisa Raymond, Carol Allen, Katie McGee, Megan Hack, James Wadig, David Bridgelal, and Zachary Baker. We discussed, 1, the 2022-23 school budget, the property tax report card, tonight's budget hearing, and remaining budget presentations. The topic was led by Lisa Raymond, Assistant Superintendent for Business, and I think everything that I was going to say about that has already been covered by other people's reports. 2, the May 15th Health Fair. Winsome Gordon, who administers block grants for the town of Greenberg, suddenly appeared in the meeting and announced an open community health fair event on Sunday, May 15th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. She requested authorization to allow town exhibits to use the Warburg campus property adjacent to the First Seventh-day Adventist Church. Per legal, we provided the town with a facilities request form. Per Lisa Raymond, we can use a portion of, Yeah, and that should take care of that item. 3, facilities funding. We reviewed an updated project summary and funding sources. There's a possible increase of about $4 million in the repair reserve fund and about $700,000 of building condition survey items that fit the strict legal definition of what are repairs that we can use it for. 4, had an in-depth discussion on the R.J. Bailey Auditorium with the Facilities Director Mike Falcone and BBS architects Fred Seba and Jim Wadick. We opened all R.J. Bailey classrooms when we returned from hybrid to in-person instructions at all our schools. However, the R.J. Bailey Auditorium remained closed. It has ventilation issues, which we will correct as part of our Phase 1 project this summer. It also has roof leaks and plaster and paint issues. And per the principal, of the 450 seats in the auditorium, 118 are broken. And the seats are so old that no replacement parts are available. There's also asbestos tile under the carpeting, which must be abated before we replace the seats. And finally, there's lead paint in the projection booth up on the balcony. BBS preliminary cost estimates for rehabilitating the auditorium are $230,000 for new seating, $50,000 for roof leak repair, $125,000 for ceiling repair and painting, and $110,000 for asbestos abatement, totaling $515,000. Per Lisa Raymond, we have sufficient funds for this project. Per BBS, if we apply to NYSED this month, we could obtain approval by September to begin work. However, it's inadvisable to remove all the asbestos on the floor while the students are in the building. So you would have to remove the asbestos before you approve the project. So you have to split the two out. We traditionally abate asbestos during the summer. We don't include asbestos abatement in the scope of the project. That would mean we would lose aid on the project, which is about $10,000 in this case, but save ourselves up to a school year in terms of construction time, because you could start the construction during the school year as long as the asbestos is gone. So the Finance and Facilities Committee recommends, one, that the auditorium asbestos abatement be performed during the summer. Funding authorization would require a budget code transfer, which the board would vote on at a future board meeting. So there's nothing to vote on tonight on that. Second, the BBS would work with the administration to develop a detailed proposal for the project. There's nothing, again, to vote on for that tonight until we have a detailed estimate. However, BBS recommends we take the opportunity to upgrade the auditorium, including replacing the sound system and the curtains, which would push the cost up. You may wish to render an opinion on what sort of project you're willing to vote for. If anybody has any comments on that, speak now or think about it and come back later, because we're not voting on it yet. Anybody have anything to say right now?
I do think we have to be careful when it comes to spending with facilities. I think that's how we got into trouble with the bond. I think there was a need for every building and for lots of things to be repaired. But you remember, Trustee Warner, many of our conversations on the board started with a small bond. And the more conversations we had, the more the needs came and the more the interest and the desire came to do additional things, and the bond ended up at $114 million. So with R.J. Bailey specifically that we're discussing, if we do need to repair the floors, I think we need to do that, but I think we also need to be realistic and careful with adding everything in. I did watch your meeting, and I did hear Mr. I think it was Wade that said, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And someone else said, oh, we have to do it properly, and I agree. It has to be done properly, but we do have to be careful. And I think that in the past, in the district, when we've done things, this is kind of like a cycle. We try to fix one thing, and then we try to add on a bunch of other things, and then we get a lot of pushback, and then we just don't end up doing it. And then it gets another 5 years, we're trying to do something else, and then we try to throw a whole bunch of things in there. People say no, we get pushback, and then we don't end up doing it.
So keep it small.
I would like to get something done with that auditorium, and if it's asbestos abatement and we need to get new chairs in there, if we could at least get that in and it not get too big and then we get pushback and people don't want to do it.
Okay, I should tell you that Assemblyman Tom Abinenti is attempting to obtain $150,000 in state funding to partially offset the R.J. Bailey auditorium repair costs and possibly another $150,000 to replace a portion of the Highview roof. So there is a possibility of a little aid coming in there.
That would be awesome.
We discussed raising funds by putting donors' names on new seats in the auditorium. If people want to buy into it that way, there are many ways to work on things. Okay, 5. Other major facilities projects that are all pending now. The Warburg campus water lines and fire hydrant. We're waiting on a surveyor quote to get an actual map of the property so contractors have a better idea of what the piping is, and we submit that to NYSED. Phase 1, BBS ventilation and Highview roof project. The project was submitted in December. We're still waiting for final NYSED approval before going to bid. That's supposed to happen this summer. That will mean all those window fans in the various buildings come out, and the real ventilation is in place like it should be. Okay. Energy performance contract RFP. There's a meeting coming up with Con Ed on Wednesday, May 4th, to answer questions. They're doing their detailed energy study. Woodlands Middle High School new security vestibule. We're still waiting on approval from Albany for Smart School funds, but there is life in Albany, so we have gotten a little bit of feedback on it, so we know that they're at least being active. The mansion roof, we're waiting on budget approval before going to bid. So those are the big things that are all waiting in the queue. Then the current project status. Lee F. Jackson, the heating coil. Remember, the furnace is running on one heating coil? The heating coil is still on order and is expected any day now. Hallway asbestos abatement is scheduled for the summer. We'll move the camps around to stay out of the way of that. Highview third grade windows are included in this year's budget. And we discussed a water issue at the north end of the building. It's not a very large water issue, but it's something to look at. R.J. Bailey, crawl space asbestos removal has been completed. The gym floor repair is already in the budget, and we have a proposal ready if the budget's approved. Curb and sidewalk. Part of the sidewalk on one side of the building is not yet done yet due to a shortage in the paving budget. That needs to go into next year's budget. And we had a brief discussion about planting trees that are supposed to be along the border between the car wash and R.J. Bailey. The town's in charge of enforcing this. Woodlands asphalt parking lot is to be repaved prior to the May 17th budget vote. We've been pushing to get that to happen. Gym floor is also included in next year's budget for that. We have a proposal ready if the budget's approved. The town would not be able to use the gym in the summer and would have to move to the smaller gym if we do that project. Street lights, we've already heard those were replaced. Concrete stairs to the C wing were repaired. We received requests for front steps to the school and parking lot repair. It's recommended that we combine that when the security booth gets done. BBS still thinks we should have a handicapped ramp. I don't think we ever resolved whether we can do that or just go in the side door. Briefly discussed bus charging station. If you go to electric vehicles, then you're going to want a bus charging station eventually. Requested to place in an agenda for a future meeting. Item 7, Phase 2. That's supposed to be the next phase after the current stuff that we've got, all lined up. Comes in behind that. Priorities include ventilation, building envelopes, building condition survey priority 1 and 2 items, and Ecp Classrooms. Not all of them, but as many as we can get. And there's this idea to combine all the Ecp Classrooms into one building if we can, and that would probably be Lee F. Jackson. Administration to submit a proposal after the energy performance contract detail study is complete, so that's probably June. Discussed continuing to seek additional fund sources similar to the block grant we tried for and missed the window on. Suggest we broaden our planning scope to include all facilities needs divided into multiple phases with funding goals for each. BCS priorities may be adjusted based on community input, and when we get to, I think, when we talk about the business with track, you have to look at things that are already in the building conditions survey, what their priorities are, and whether we want to move them or not. Okay. Number 8, we thanked Michael Falcone for his 9 years of service to the district and congratulated him on his retirement at the end of May. We look forward to a smooth transition to our newly hired facilities director, Dennis Puglisi, who begins on May 5th. So there'll be some overlap between the two so that some transfer of knowledge will occur. 9, Woodlands track team request. We read an email from students on the track team regarding the need for a new rubberized track. This is already included in the building conditions survey, which is on the district website, as a priority 3 item. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the problem is it's down in the middle of the list and might never make it to the top of the list. And if we push it up, then we've got to sacrifice something else. And the cost is about $500,000. Okay. We discussed funding sources for the track team through grants. We recommended we're going to check back with the administration and see if they can find anything. We suggest that we explore using other local tracks. In the meantime, I'm not sure quite how the track, I know we have a good cross-country program and we have places to run, but the track is the problem. Sports are extremely important at Woodlands High School. We explored grant writing. We can explore grant writing for sports projects. We could employ a booster club to raise outside money to donate to the district. We could explore splitting the cost with the town and making fields public during non-school hours. And there's a suggestion that we request our ex officio board member to poll the student body to see what facilities projects are viewed as most needed. So if you look and you say, okay, we know that the track team thinks that the track is the most important thing. Does the tennis team think that the tennis courts are more important? What does the school body as a whole think is the most important? And then that will give some weight towards pushing things to a higher level, and we need to see what it is you think we should do. The next meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee is Thursday, May 19th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you, Trustee Warner. Any questions or comments? But yes, Trustee Washington?
I'm sorry, Trustee Warner, did you say anything about the potholes?
The potholes were addressed in the previous meeting. So what was supposed to happen is when you go out and pave that the parking lot out in front of where the people are going in to vote, there will be leftover asphalt. And you take the leftover asphalt and you run around to all the potholes in the driveways and you fill the potholes.
And when are they going to do that?
They're supposed to do it at the same time that they have the asphalt there, so between now and the 17th.
Thank you. And that's the potholes going towards the football field, the
Yes.
potholes right here? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Any other comments or questions from trustees? There were two things I did want to ask you about. So with regard to the handicap ramp, I heard you mention that very briefly, and that I guess we weren't sure if that's happening. My question is, legally, do we have to have that? I understand we can use the back door, but
Yeah,
is there
you have to have
also-
access. The
Right.
question is access from the side, the side door that we already have in existence good enough? Then you would have to have a procedure such that you just moved your guard booth, right? Such that you let people in one at a time through that side door, and then you're okay. As opposed to, we want a single point of entrance, nobody else should really be coming in through that side door anymore, and therefore the security requires that the security guards stand guard at that one entrance. And
Also, is someone at the side there, there's no covering for weather at that side door? If someone is not letting you in right away, there's a buzzing issue as well that could arise at that side door. And when we talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and safety, having all of our students and staff come in the same entrance is safer, and it's more equitable for our handicapped students and public if they come, and staff.
I think, isn't that the law that we have to?
the law is that we have to have the access,
Just access.
just access.
So what's the next step to look into a handicap ramp?
We have a design for a handicapped ramp, and we have a cost for the handicapped ramp, and the reason we got pushback on it is that the cost of the handicapped ramp is extreme because the front door of Woodlands is about 6 or 7 feet down, so you can't just roll straight in. You have to have a huge switchback that's very long and made of concrete, and you have to have a way to cover it at the end. And so it's an expensive proposition, and therefore there's something else you can't do if you do the handicapped ramp in the front. So the pushback is, gosh, why are we spending all this money when there's already a way in? An awning is cheap. A ramp is expensive.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned Ecp Classrooms possibly being in one building.
Yes.
So when we talk about Ecp Classrooms, we're talking about the amount of classrooms that we have. What is it, about 6? 1, 2.
There were a total of 9.
And okay, so I was going to
If
say
you
6
include what's
regular
already in Leah
plus-
Jackson, there's a total of 9.
Right, so total of 9. And then we have how many administrative offices, meaning for
There are a couple of
support
administrative
staff
offices.
and secretarial and director, and we also have a nurse, and we also need therapy rooms.
And
Correct?
right, so we have, I think, 3 different estimates, depending on the number of classrooms that we want to put in place. As you know, I've been pushing to try and get our 3-year-old program going again, but we have to have funding for that to maintain it. You can't just, put classrooms in place and then not have enough money to pay the teachers. So we've been looking for funding sources for that, and that will, to a certain extent, determine how many classrooms you put into that project, and then that will determine the size of the project.
I really want to make sure that we do not lose the specialness of our ECP program. And I know that we had ECP kind of pushed into Highview and Leaf Jackson at one point. And staff were like in the library and and I just really do not want to lose. We lost a lot of students, and I don't want to lose the specialness
Yes.
of that program.
Of course, it was a half-day program, so you had twice as many students for the number of teachers. So yes, we did lose quite a bit, and the ECP is important. What is it, like an 11% decrease in the dropout rate? If you have a full-fledged ECP program, we've got it for the 4-year-olds. We've got it more inclusively for the 4-year-olds than we had it before, but we don't have it for the 3-year-olds, and that needs to come back.
Any other questions or comments from trustees? Hearing none. Are there any other board committee reports? No. We can hear from our student ex officio member, Ms. Panus.
Hello, thank you once again for this opportunity to speak on behalf of Student Council. So firstly, we wanted to talk about the wellness program we had recently. It was a huge success. Both students and teachers had a day to think about their mental well-being, step aside from academics. There was multiple activities for students to participate in. And I guess one of the best parts of the program was its timing. Currently, we have our AP and IB exams starting this week and next week. Actually, the first IB exam is tomorrow, and the timing of this wellness day gave students to look back and reflect, especially for seniors, since this is our senior year. So one of our goals as a school that I've realized is developing activities, events to encourage students to embrace various cultures and foreign languages. Recently, students have approached student council members about the Mandarin program. They have shared with us that Mandarin is more than learning a language. It enables you to explore one of the most ancient cultures of the world. I think after my presentation and stuff, you're going to be hearing from students who took Mandarin and how they feel, how Mandarin has affected them, especially with Dr. Yang. However, I think also hearing from a student that never took Mandarin and the importance that Dr. Yang had on me. I didn't take Mandarin. However, Dr. Yang has played a vital impact on my time here at Woodlands. The assemblies she did for the past couple of years have truly been memorable. I'm not someone who took Mandarin, so learning Asian culture was through these assemblies that she hosted. She brought people from outside the school to educate us about these assemblies. And normally we think of assemblies, and as a student here, you think these assemblies are redundant. You think they're the same information repeated over and over. However, my time here at Woodlands, every Asian assembly that we've celebrated, or Mandarin assembly we've had, has been different. We've learned new information over and over. Nothing has been repeated once. It's always new information. We learned about Taiwanese culture, Mandarin culture, and other Asian parts, and other Asian history and heritage, which I think is important. And as a Woodlands student, diversity has been a key factor. And taking away this program, taking away Dr. Yang, it would be not something that is going to be beneficial for us as students. There are students who have taken Mandarin at 7th grade, and it's something that we want to plan on continuing through 12th grade. We want to build upon this knowledge. A petition with over 100 signatures has been collected by Mandarin students with the full support in the student body and student council. We ask that Dr. Yang remains with us and continues because she's played a vital role with us as students. Second matter of business, what Mr. Warren said about the track and tennis. First off, I don't know if you hear about the news of the track team. We actually had a senior, Leland Maxwell, go to, I believe, sectionals, in which she got first place and soon went to states. So we have an exceptional athletic team, both in track and various other sports, which is amazing. And I'm proud to be a senior here at Woodlands. Speaking of the track team, one of the issues they've had was the condition of the track. Track athletes want to know if there's a possibility of resurfacing the track with recycled rubber made with old athletic shoes and car tires. The synthetic material would make the sport safer for students. Proudly, the student athletes have done their own research and wanted me to share their findings with you tonight. Another matter of business was the tennis courts. Students aren't actually playing on the tennis courts. Right now, they're being of no use. They're playing at the other school's tennis courts. So right now, that land, that piece of property is not being useful. It's not being any benefit to students. And what Mr. Warren said about what's more important, I will have to get back to you on that. I will conduct a survey and see and get the students' input on what they believe matters more. Yes, and I believe that's it. I hope I could have been of any use, and thank you so much for this opportunity once again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Panus. Is there any comments, questions from anyone? No. Okay, hearing none. I do want to make one clarification. So when you're asking, your committee asked the students to do a survey, is it an open survey where they tell you what's important, or do you want to give them the list of things in the BCS?
What's your preference?
Regarding the survey?
Yeah, do you want to do an open-ended, what do you think is the most important possible facilities project? What are the greatest needs?
Yes, regarding athletics, which should be provided for both the middle school and high school.
Open.
Okay, so how will, practically, if we have an open survey, how will you fit that into the information in the BCS? Because
Committee makes a
committees-
recommendation, so a survey comes back to us.
Mhm.
We share the results of the survey. You find out how many people have participated, how many people voted for what, or
Okay.
what suggestions there were. And then we take that back and we look at what we have lined up and what goes into phase 2 or phase 3. And we slot something in and
Okay.
have a debate as to, do we fix this roof or do we?
Well, then you have to tell, the reason why I'm bringing that up, because then you do have to tell the students about the roofs. Because if the students don't have the full list of that BCS, they won't necessarily be
The
voting
building
on-
condition survey
Yes.
is posted on the district website under facilities. And there's a topic for each school. So if you look for Woodlands, click on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, you'll see what the priorities are, what everything is in the universe that we've got lined up, if anybody wants to look at that.
Thank you. And Trustee Washington?
Yes, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for empowering the student voice in Greenburgh Central School District. And then I just have a question in reference to the track, because that track has been a problem for many, many years. And do you have students that have actual health conditions because of the track, like something happens with the feet and the legs as they keep pounding on that cement?
Shin splints.
That's what it's called?
That's
Thank
what
you
it's
very
called.
much. Has anyone ever reported that to you?
I believe there has been, especially injuries with the regarding of the material on the track. It's not something that is safe for athletes to play in. It's not the best environment. And we do have the athletes that can succeed, and I believe they deserve what's best for them to improve as a student and as an athlete.
Right, and we need to be up to date to 2022 to have a track and field that represents this year, this generation. So the other question that I have for you, did you guys, the student council, student government, speak to the athletic director, speak to your principal, speak to assistant superintendent, speak to the superintendent at all, speak to Lisa Raymond? Like, have you had any type of meetings with administration?
No, not yet. We're going to try to get the students' opinions first, and then if it's something that majority speaks and all of them as a group have the same ideas and notions about the conditions of the track, then of course we would go to the superintendent and athletic director, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Trustee Warner, did you want to say something?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. And Trustee Valen, did you say something? No? Okay. All right, great. So any more committee reports? Hearing none, we will move on to Board President's report. I'll keep this quick since we have a lot of people here. On behalf of the Board of Education, I did want to recognize Administrative Professionals Day. And our administrative professional is Joya Ponticello. I think the clap is definitely worthy. Joya started mid-year this year and really jumped right into the shoes and jumped right into the position. Prior to that, she's filling the shoes of Ivy Krause, who is now our superintendent secretary. And Ivy did that job for like 14, 15 years. And so 16 years? 17 years. Okay, I'm just cutting Ivy's time, I'm sorry, for 17 years. And so that's hard shoes to fill. But Joy is actually doing a wonderful job. I have heard from every trustee that is very pleased with the work that you are doing. So please continue to do a good job. So I did want to acknowledge you on that note. That was last week, Administrative Professionals Day. Also, I wanted to acknowledge Eid that just passed. The holiday was from Sunday into Monday, I believe. And although our district did not close, we do acknowledge holidays of all faiths and cultures. Also, I wanted to, a good friend told me that it was National Principals Day on Monday. I didn't know that, but Sunday, excuse me. I did not realize that, but we do have a principal on the board, so congratulations, Ms. Washington. Happy National Principals Day.
Happy National Principals Day to all the principals in Greenburgh.
I do see Mr. M out there. I don't have my glasses on, Mr. Mastrangelo, and I don't know, maybe Mr. Smith is here. Not yet, okay. Well, happy National Principals Day to all of our principals and assistant principals in the district. I also wanted to remind everyone that Mother's Day is coming up. So whether it's a mother, whether it's a security officer or security aide that's a parent or a mentor to you, definitely acknowledge the mothers or the dads that are also mothers. In your life this weekend. We try really, really hard. And to the mothers, please continue to check your children's cell phones if you can. Social media is really, really tough. I know that teenagers are cringing out there. But do try to take a peek at what your children are doing so that you're aware and you're paying attention. Lastly, I do want to acknowledge Teacher Appreciation Week. I see our GTF president out there. I see red. I don't have my glasses, but I see red. So Mr. Bell hopefully is out there. He usually comes to our meetings. And we do want to acknowledge, I do see you, okay. I do want to acknowledge our teachers, and although in order to run a school district, we need multiple people. The school district does not run with a teacher or even a superintendent or even a board member. It's everyone involved. But our teachers are with our children all of the time. At the high school, they do get a break period here or there, but for the most part, the teachers are the people in front of the children 24/7. And I don't do that work. I work in a job where I can close my door and get away from people. And the teachers cannot. If they have a bad day, if they have a headache, if they're exhausted, if they're having family problems, they have to run a classroom. So we acknowledge that and we appreciate you, and happy Teachers Appreciation Week. Okay, and that is it. I will move on in the agenda to our superintendent's report.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Iverson.
Thank you, and good evening. I'm going to piggyback on our board president. Most of my comments that I would like to make are included in the reports that Dr. Macaluso and Lisa will make around curriculum and budget. So for the purpose of my minute this afternoon or this evening, I too want to take an opportunity this week and say we're honoring our teachers and all district staff who support them, because as Trustee Mayers just said, the work that classroom teachers do, they would not be able to do without the support of all of the offices that support that. Technology, custodians, cafeteria, everyone here supports what happens in the classroom. So this week we honor all district staff and our teachers. We know that everyone, again, regardless of their position and their responsibility in this district, they play an important role. Everyone's role here is important to the success of our students. So we appreciate them every day, and we appreciate that they teach and inspire and care for all of our students. We know our teachers provide high quality instruction to our students, but we know here in Greenburgh, and I know I can attest to this from coming here and being here now in 9 months, that the teachers here do much more. We appreciate what they do to put the social emotional needs of our students first through their teaching and work and to foster these relationships that we know we need to build with our students, communicate with our families and communities, and engage in innovative ways to support their learning. So while there have been many challenges, as we know this year, coming off COVID, we want to commend our teachers for their and district staff for your commitment and acknowledge you this week for your continued great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. Any questions, concerns, anything? No? Okay, we'll move on to the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum, Instruction, and Personnel Report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, President Mayers. First, before I get into my report, I just wanted to clarify a comment I made earlier about the ratios. So the ratio for co-teaching is 12-1. I had mentioned 15-1. But with that, moving along to curriculum and instruction. So the first thing I'd like to share is to remind our DP, Diploma Program parents, that we held a parent meeting this past week on 4/28. So if you were not able to attend that meeting, please contact Mr. Rounds so that you can receive the information that was shared for that. Ela and Mathematics Assessments for grades 3 through 8 that are required by New York State Education Department are now complete. We are in the process of completing NISA/SLAT examinations. Those are exams for our students who are newly acquiring English. Those are still continuing. We will be finishing those up in the next week. And then parents, please be reminded, if you are a parent of a 4th or 8th grade student, 8th graders who do take the science exam, those exams begin on 5/24, May 24th. Following the comments made by our student representative, I want to thank the Woodlands Middle High School for inviting us to the wellness event that happened on Friday. We got a chance to see a lot of different things, including animal care and yoga. That was our individual experience. One of my individual experience was also kickball, but we'll leave it at that. I think I can teach math a little bit better than kickball, but in any event. And so we are going to continue that work that's being done at the middle high school, celebrating our students' voice and their positive affirmations. On June 10th, which is a Friday, we will be having an event where students and staff will celebrate words of wisdom and show their expression for that in some way, shape, or form. So be on the lookout for that event happening. Parents, parents of students who are currently in grades 1 through 5, you should have received a letter informing you that COGAT testing will take place soon, and that is one of the components that we use for testing into our advanced learning program. Parents of importance, please note that every child will be screened except if they were in a self-contained setting, and also they will not be screened if you choose to opt out. So please take a look at that letter. There is a URL in the letter in which you can complete a form so that you may opt your child out of that testing. Okay, and you can also call your individual school to find out the schedule of when that will begin. Our first round of testing will begin at Bailey, beginning the week of May 9th. At Highview, testing begins on May 12th, and at Jackson, testing begins on May 23rd. Okay, so once again, COGAT testing begins at RJB on the 9th of May, the 12th of May for Highview, and finally, May 23rd at Lee F. Jackson. Again, if you have any questions about the schedule, please contact your child's principal. I'm also pleased to announce that we are launching a summer reading initiative in which each child in our district will receive an actual paper book. So thank you, library media specialists and our literacy specialists who helped to coordinate that. So we have ordered the materials, they'll be coming in, and we will be kicking off the district-wide event for that in the beginning of June, and the website will be launched by the end of May, where you can see the titles that your child will be receiving, as well as some of the activities that our teachers have created for engagement with that summer reading. iReady end-of-year assessment also begins pretty soon, and that is beginning on May 23rd, so please note that your child will be participating in that as well. And finally, I want to give an update on the SEL committee that we have been talking about. And so with our two administrative co-chairs, Mr. Giarusso and Mr. McCoy, we have 25 total members. And again, that SEL committee is a district-wide committee comprised of teachers, a parent, a student rep, as well as some administrative representatives. And so the task of that group will be to create social emotional learning standards, and then a curriculum where we will explicitly teach our students some strategies that they can use to recognize their emotions and also communicate effectively so that they're always providing solutions and not causing harm to a colleague. And that is it for my updates. Thank you.
Trustees, any questions, comments? Trustee Washington?
So I just have a question in reference to the summer reading initiative. Are we also, do we have Epic or like Bion, something that the students can use digitally, even though we're giving them a hard copy, which I think is great, so kudos. But will we also have some digital curriculum for them to use in the summer also?
Absolutely. So there will be one book that we will highly recommend that they read. Hint, please read it. And so there will also be some digital titles that are available for students to read that are optional as well. And we will be coordinating that with the Greenberg Public Library as well.
So the book, will it be one book, or will the students have choice in the book?
The book that we are providing is one choice, but then the optional, they have several options for the book that they can choose to read. And the books also do represent various cultures, and so that would also be something that we are using to make sure that we help our students understand what it means to have a welcoming and affirming environment and to recognize the perspectives of all individuals.
All right, and in reference to the SEL committee, will it be posted, the committee members, on the website?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, how will this committee impact the actual classroom?
So we will look into posting that on the website. One thing that I neglected to mention is that the first meeting of that group is May 17th, so shortly coming around. And so the way that that will impact the classroom is that teachers will be trained on how to use the curriculum and embed that curriculum into everyday practices. So it's not just a curriculum that will be used by one group, it will be used by all of our staff members.
And then in reference to the parent, like Title I money, will we be able to use some of that money so that we can have SEL parent-like workshops or have parents, so then we can also have some strategies for our children at home along with the committee?
That is definitely an allowable expenditure on the Title I parenting piece,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
That would come next year as we develop the curriculum.
Are there any other trustees with questions, comments, inquiries? Anything? I have a couple of things I wanted to talk about. You covered a lot of things, Dr. Macaluso, thank you. So I heard you talk about the OUT program. I just really need to reiterate strongly to this administration that the OUT program needs to be diverse. It is not a diverse program. Okay? So I just want to make that very, very clear.
Are we
that
saying
needs to
demographically diverse?
Diverse meaning when we started this program, I think Trustee Warner and I, and I'm not sure if Trustee Pineda was there yet, we talked about the past history of programs that do push for students that learn a little bit quicker. And the OUT program was created with the promise to the board that that program would remain diverse. So we would have a mix of students in that program. It would not only be students from one demographic, one particular area, one particular type of student. And so I understand you're going to do the COGAT testing. We used to have a ALP director, which we no longer have, but that person was charged with making sure that there was equity in that program. And I want to make sure that there's equity that remains in that program.
I don't think you need an ALP director for that.
I don't think we need one either, no, but I'm being clear that she was charged with that at that point in time, and so I just want to be clear that that also remains an equitable program. In addition, I have a question, because you did say that someone can opt out of the COGAT testing. How would a child whose family opted out of the COGAT testing still have an opportunity to be evaluated for ALP?
They would not. So if a parent opts their child out of taking the COGAT, then one of the pieces that we would use for consideration for entrance into that program would not be there. So they would not be able to attend that program.
So then the parent has no recourse at all if their child maybe doesn't test well or has testing anxiety? How can their child be considered?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. So if the parent opts out, the child would not take the test at all, so we would have no score. Maybe I'm not understanding.
So I think you're talking about teacher recommendation. So
however they consider it, I think there needs to be an alternate option for a parent and a student who maybe doesn't test well. I mean, this is supposed to be an equitable program. So in the past, we have had students that may need assistance in certain areas, but maybe they scored well. It was the COGAT and the STAR, I believe, were the two testing tools that were used. So if they score high enough on those testing to get into the area, but maybe they need help with, I don't know, OT or something. They could still be in that program. And I don't know, you can talk to the previous ALP director, what things were considered, but if there's not testing, I know that there's legitimate testing concerns for certain students. Certain families have concerns about testing. If that's not an option, how does that student continue to get accelerated instruction?
The requirements for consideration into ALP will be COGAT assessment, I-ready assessment, which will replace the STAR, and teacher recommendation. So if any of those items is missing, so if a parent opts their child out of COGAT testing, we do not have that data. We would not be able to consider that child.
So maybe that's something that you look into for next school year. Maybe like a student portfolio could be submitted so you can have more diverse students and just different entry points of how to become part of the program. So that's something to consider for the school year.
The only other thing I was going to mention was for the SEL committee, I would strongly recommend for transparency purposes and buy-in that committee participants be posted and made public. And also, in the past, board members have been invited to attend various different things. Perhaps the administration would consider inviting a board member to attend the SEL committee first meeting just to see how things are kind of structured on the 17th. Thank you. Next on our agenda is Assistant Superintendent for Business Report.
Thank you. Once again, the Summer Food Service Program will return to GCSD for our students. The program will be free of charge as it was last summer, and there will be further information to follow, and we will advertise on our website, and I will get it out to the principals so that all families are aware of this. As you know, we are being audited by the state comptroller. The auditors are still here. They were here a couple days last week, and they have continued to be here this week.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Raymond.
No,
I'm sorry.
I've got a couple more.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
So as you know, the company Earn Your Leisure, which is a organization that was created by Woodlands Middle High School graduates, proposed a proposal for us, and we have the vending machines down by the weight rooms and the gymnasiums. They have been very successful, and I was just contacted this week by them that they are going to offer two scholarships, two $1,000 scholarships to students that are eligible for the Woodlands Middle High School, one for a female, one for a male. The selection process will require that each applicant has to submit an essay. I have forwarded it to Mr. Smith and to Dr. Foy so that they are aware of it and that they can get it out to the students. Currently, we are up to 336 students to transport off campus to other schools, which is up from what I reported last time. Frank Gunn does expect that we will get more in the coming months. And just a reminder that the budget vote is May 17th at the Woodlands Middle High School Gymnasium from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raymond. Are there any questions or comments about the business report? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda. Oh, sorry, Trustee Valen.
Can I just get an I missed what you said about the buses, but I'm curious about the busing right now for after-school programs. I know in the last week or two, we've had a number of after-school buses canceled here at the Woodlands Middle High School, and I'm just wondering what's going on.
I will have to look into that, and I'll get back to you. I wasn't aware that they were canceled. I would only think that they were canceled for two reasons. One, we didn't have drivers. You have realized that if we have a after-school sports trip that has to go out, that could affect after-school busing, and or we didn't have enough for the run. I do know that that has happened in the past. Okay. But I will look into it and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, business, comments? No, hearing none. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is public comments. And I'll read a quick statement. Joya, we have some people signed up. Yes, and I see Trustee Pineda's hand.
It looks like we have the timer set up on the stage right there, but I'm not sure if you can see that, President Mayor, so.
Yes, sir, I can see the 400.
Perfect, thank you.
So trustee Juanita pointed out the 4 minutes, and I'll read the comment here. As we have an audience at our board meeting this evening, I think it would be helpful to outline our regular protocol as some basic rules with regards to comments from the public. While the law does not require that the board permit public comments at board meetings, this board has traditionally allowed and encouraged input from the public. However, we wish to remind all present that, per Board Policy Number 1510, we require that all speakers adhere to the following protocols so as to allow everyone a fair opportunity to be heard and to allow for the efficient operation of the meeting. Initially, persons wishing to address the Board of Education must advise the president of the board, that's me, prior to the scheduled start or time of the meeting. That's this sign-up sheet. The request is to be made in writing on a form provided by the district clerk. That's this. Any group or organization wishing to address the Board of Education must identify a single spokesperson. Speakers will be permitted to speak for no longer than 4 minutes, hence the timer. Work session speakers may comment on matters related to any agenda item. The Board of Education will not permit public comments involving specific district personnel or specific students. Any such information should be directed to the superintendent and will be addressed through appropriate channels. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene language, scandalous statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. We will take all information under advisement for the board's consideration. In most cases, there will be no response from the board during a board meeting so as to keep the meeting moving. Finally, when called upon, please state your name for the record before beginning your public comment. We appreciate everyone's cooperation. With that said, the first person on my list is Ms. Pamela Goldstein. I feel like I haven't seen you in a few years, Pamela. Nice to see you, Ms. Goldstein. Your 4 minutes starts now.
Nice to see you too. Can everyone hear me?
Can you hear me now? I do work for Verizon. I had to ask that question. Good evening, Dr. Iverson, members of the board, staff, students, parents, and other stakeholders. I am here as a stakeholder with many hats, a taxpayer, school district resident, and parent of 2 students in the district with a vested interest in its success. I am outraged about the recommendation to terminate Dr. Yang. I, along with other parents, expressed our disappointment last year about denying her tenure to many of the same board members who sit here today, and it seems that our voices were ignored and forgotten.
Ms. Goldstein, can I just stop you? We cannot discuss any specific school personnel. That means any
I would
employee.
just like to talk about Dr. Yang and the Mandarin program, which my son is a part of.
I'd rather you talk about the Mandarin program than any specific school personnel. Legally, the district would be at risk to discuss a specific personnel. So I'm asking you,
with all due respect, in my experience, Dr. Yang is the Mandarin program. My son is in his 3rd year at this school, and he has only had her as a teacher.
I understand, but Ms. Goldstein, I still need to ask you not to discuss any specific district personnel. So if you want, you know, we could go to the next person if you want to like kind of move around the statement a little bit and then come back because we want to hear what you have to say.
I have no other experience with the Mandarin program aside from Dr. Yang.
So we're going to stop. We're going to stop for now.
Maybe we could just let the community member know to say the teacher.
Yeah.
If you just
With
say
a
the teacher,
that's what
I
I'm
think
asking you.
it's a specific name. That's what
Okay.
just say the teacher, and everyone, we all
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
And we do
Trustee
need to give her
Washington.
more time.
Thank you.
Because she lost time for that. So can we please give her more time?
Thank you, Trustee Washington.
You're welcome.
So if you, and I'm fine to go to the next person and come back if you want to reword. Okay.
Okay, but I'd like to read the following from the district's website. Welcome to the Department of World Languages. Curriculum Overview. The primary objectives of the World Languages Department are to ensure that students have a deep and enduring understanding of cultures and acquire a high level of proficiency in the target languages we offer. We also aspire to provide students with global perspectives to inform how they see themselves in communities large and small, and to promote empathy and deeper understanding of the world's cultures. My son's teacher, who he's had for almost 3 years now, best exemplifies these lofty goals. She has dedicated countless hours of her own time and has expended her own resources and materials to engage her students and immerse them in Chinese culture and history. She planned numerous field trips to expand student learning outside of the classroom. These experiences bring culture to life and create enthusiasm for the language. Additionally, this teacher presents the Mandarin Heritage Week celebration to the entire school and Greenberg community. This broadens students' perspectives and strengthens their commitment to learning. She also holds feasts with her students and teaches her students how to make traditional foods. These lessons even inspired my son to make his own kosher for Passover matzah as a 7th grader during lockdown. Finally, my son's Mandarin teachers' instruction and planning include diverse learning activities that engage her students and encourage collaboration among students. These techniques have resulted in my son's meaningful and constructive learning and an enthusiasm to pursue his Mandarin studies through the IB program. It is imperative for her to remain so that her students will not be deprived of this opportunity. My son's Mandarin teacher's dedication to her students and this district does not go unnoticed by them. My son often remarks about her work ethic, and I dare to say it is rubbing off on him based on all the hard work he's doing to prepare for his AP European History exam on Friday. In fact, I have to tell you that on her own initiative, this teacher organized Google Meets during the very first week of lockdown and before the district implemented any remote learning plan. At the time, I applauded her efforts and dedication to Mr. Smith and Dr. Chase. Her unwavering dedication and commitment to her students and commitment was evidenced by her actions. She wanted to ensure continuity of learning for her students under the most challenging of circumstances. In sum, I strongly urge the district to reconsider the decision to terminate this teacher. She plays an essential role in the World Language Program and is an exemplary teacher who our students are most deserving of. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Golson. And I want to thank you for kind of rewording or substituting to abide by the rules, and then anyone subsequent that plans to speak, please do the same. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next on our list here, I have Ms. Donna Morton.
Hi, is it, okay, it's
We
working.
can hear you.
Yes, my name is Donna Morton. I am a parent of a student in this district for the last 12 years. And I would like to say that in that time frame, I have witnessed 4 different superintendents, multiple assistant superintendents, different principals, different vice principals. However, as a parent, I have witnessed the whole history. I am not sure that everyone sitting up here tonight on this stage has witnessed everything that a parent and students that have been in this district consistently for the last 12 years have seen. In that, I have seen the district hire some amazing professionals in this district, inclusive of teachers, who I would like to take a moment to thank for their wonderful work as teacher appreciation work. I have also seen the difficulty and struggles that we've had as a district to find teachers in specialty areas, including science, math, and foreign language programs. In particular, when we decided to go through the language program and hire teachers for the Mandarin program, it was a very difficult challenge for us. And we secured some terrific teachers. Throughout this program, our students have learned, their world has expanded. We also have a challenge in this district with retention of teachers. I have seen math, science, and language professionals leave this district. I do not know why some of them have left, but we have a retention challenge in front of us. We need to pay attention to what is going on, and we need to consider all perspectives on our teachers that are here. As we enter the 10-year season, I implore this entire board and the administration to consider the views of the parents and students speaking tonight and through our representative, through the student council. As a parent, I have never had anybody ask my view on a teacher. I don't know that anyone has asked the views of the students of the teachers in this district, but the students are the ones who are impacted most by these teachers. When you go to make a decision, you should make the most informed decision. And so I implore you to consider very carefully what all these students and parents have to say tonight about our programs and our teachers and all the wonderful work they do before a final decision is made, because they deserve to have the best teachers out there, and these teachers deserve to be recognized for all of their efforts as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morton. Next on our list, we have Stephen Morton. Any relation?
Hello, everyone. I'm not as articulate as my wife. I need my notes. My name is Stephen E. Morton. I've been around for a long time here, and I've got two major concerns. So I'm going to touch on these two topics. One is continuity, and the other is discipline, and they both pertain to the budget and what's coming up. You see, the COVID years have left us with some very daunting issues. And now, surely in the future, the struggle is going to be real. The struggle to find better teachers when you already have quality teachers here. You need reputation, and a reputation of retention of good teachers is very important out there. You just can't just say, oh, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal, because when you need a reputation out there to attract quality people, they're going to say, how did you treat the quality teachers that you had in the first place? So this is something to think about. So, as I was saying, we need more continuity. We've had, in the last few years, administrators leaving, we've had staff leaving, teachers leaving, and we got a big emotional mountain that lies in front of us. COVID has not gone away. Things have not gone away. The economics are getting worse. And this is for all the students. We have to rethink how we look at things. I'm not here tonight to point any fingers at anybody. I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. But I'm here to question the timing of all the decisions you're making, whether it's economic consolidation or whatever reason. We have to rethink. What is the real motivation behind giving no tenure in this appropriate time? We're in trouble. The second thing I want to talk about is the rising problem of respect and discipline at the Woodlands Middle High School. I have two boys who go to school here. Many of you know who I am. You know I don't play games. If I say something, it's real. There's a lot of things going on here that I don't even want to talk about in public, but we have to. We have to be transparent, especially in these coming days. So I'm looking at things now, and I'm wondering, is there a correlation of having no dean of students this year and the rise of all this stuff happening at the same time? We had a lot of people who were trapped inside their homes doing schoolwork. There's a lot of volatile kids out there, and we have to rethink how they came out of this. Yeah, there's social emotional learning, but if they don't have any respect and discipline while they're walking up and down the hallways, they're not going to learn either. And then you're going to be in trouble as things get higher and higher. So what my thing is I would love to see a reconsideration in reinstalling a dean of students. I think if it's something that really needs to be thought about in the budget, and it's part of social emotional learning, but you have to have the yin-yang approach. There has to be a balance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. Next, we have Jake Morton.
你好，我的名字是 Jack Morton， 我是我们学校的一名学生。今天与您聊天，我讨到学生的动机。That means, hi, my name is Jake, and I am a student at our school, speaking to you today. Over the course of just 2 years, I've been able to learn a lot about Mandarin culture, along with the key structure of this hard language. 2 years ago, as the pandemic shut down schools and forced children into remote learning, learning in all of my subjects became a large challenge. This was especially so in Mandarin because speaking, listening, and conversing with classmates in person is integral to improving language skills. All of that was lost for nearly 2 years. As if that was not challenging enough for Mandarin students, in September of 2020, I was disappointed to find out that 7th graders were no longer able to have a full schedule of Mandarin, instead having class but every other day. This concerned me because I knew at the end of 8th grade, which is this year for my class, we would still have to take a Regents checkpoint test. Yet through that year, while we switched between remote, hybrid, and in-person classes, we were able to mostly keep up with the regular curriculum as if we had been in a in-person 5 days a week. Having class only 2 days a week was a challenge no other main subject teacher had to deal with. I found that my class was motivated, despite the daunting challenges we faced, to do well, and was given the tools and resources to do well, despite the less to ideal circumstances. In essence, even though both the pandemic and the school district put our class at a disadvantage, through our teachers' efforts, we were able to stay on track. I feel lucky to have a teacher who is so dedicated as to go to great lengths, both in class and on their own time, to ensure that we would still be prepared for our upcoming exams and to be more worldly. Without their extraordinary efforts, I do not think that our class would be on track. I know that you are making decisions about teachers' jobs in the next few weeks, and I hope you will consider the students' and parents' views and experiences in any decisions that you will make regarding our school. I would be very sad and disappointed to lose some of the great teachers we have here at Woodlands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. And next we have Joel Wagman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Joel Wagman. I reside in the school district with my wife and 2 children, a graduating senior and middle school 7th grader. I also have an older daughter who graduated from Woodlands, having gone on to get her bachelor's degree from Georgetown and a master's at Carnegie Mellon. While she was not a product of your Mandarin foreign language program that I am here to address this evening, our graduating senior headed for SUNY Albany is, as is our 7th grader. My wife and I have been in the school district since 1997. We know something about the importance of academic excellence and believe we have insight into quality teaching. It has come to our attention that the Mandarin language program is about to be disrupted by your personnel decision, all without what I suspect is parent or student input. We should speak about process and how these decisions are made without parent or student input. We do not need to address any one hiring decision, as you will refuse to engage in that meaningful conversation, claiming privacy or other legal concerns. Frankly, I challenge your legal position as a practicing attorney, as it has no merit if consented to by the persons affected, and you could extend courtesies to them as well as the community rather than stonewalling a public conversation. It has been a long time since I was in a foreign language classroom, but the experience of my children here at Woodlands has been nothing less than extraordinary, an assessment level I rarely offer. The Mandarin language was brought to life for my children by incorporating speaking skills with matters involving the rich culture and heritage of the Mandarin-speaking world, without compromising the importance of daily lessons, grammar, sentence structures, word banks, listening and reading passages, and dialogue exchanges. We have all witnessed assemblies that have demonstrated these programs, and absent the interruptions of COVID, our children also enjoyed meaningful trips orchestrated by the program. No, orchestrated by Dr. Yang, thank you. Your process here leaves much to be desired, and I would like you to defend that process of excluding the community, excluding parents, and excluding the students. If your decisions are reversible, perhaps you might consider that process and make an appropriate adjustment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Next, we have Sheng Fen Yu.
Hi, good evening. I'm here to talk about the same topic, and I believe my daughter is the 7th grader of Woodland High School, and she thinks Dr. Yan teaches very well. She thinks that her Mandarin teacher teaches very well, and I believe her teaching is gonna benefit all the students in the future. Please consider to extend the tenure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker we have is Michaela Webb.
Good night to the board. My name is Michaela Webb. I'm a 9th grader at Woodlands Middle High School, and I present to you a letter written on behalf of the Mandarin 2 students, which would be the other 9th graders currently enrolled. We, the Mandarin 2 students at Woodlands Middle High School, feel strongly convicted to write to you concerning our Mandarin program. Our current Mandarin program is exceptional, equipped with a teacher who genuinely cares about her students and their performance in her class. She works tirelessly making packets for us to complete in class that accurately and efficiently teach us a foreign language. She takes time out to create thorough and in-depth handouts, including spaces where we can write and understand simplified characters, pinyin, and English translations of sentences that we can use in our daily lives. Along with this, we learn about things outside the frame of the foreign language. Today, we continue with our travel unit, which we're identifying countries, capitals, and travel dialogue in Mandarin language. So even in a foreign language class like Mandarin, we can continue to learn about geography. So many students attest to their proficiency and understanding of the language having increased significantly during their time being taught by this teacher, in comparison to the other years they have taken the class with others. She has also organized many cultural events and activities, further extending our experience about learning this culture. Not only does she work hard in preparing her lessons, but she also works hard to make us happy. We can recall many times where we've laughed because of this teacher. Whether it's her silly stories or her quick and natural humor, we can all pinpoint some way that she has made us happy. We find it to be a great loss to the school and our immersive Mandarin program if it was put in the hands of somebody else. This teacher is a great inspiration to our students, and we would be remiss to allow the decision to be made against our interests. We strongly feel that keeping this teacher in our school would benefit our education and our overall learning experience, and we unanimously decided to write to you in support of our teacher. We sincerely hope that you will reconsider your decision and ultimately decide to dismiss it entirely. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Webb, and the Mandarin 2 students. Next, we have Jeremy Olave, and I hope, did I pronounce your name accurately? Okay, thank you.
Everyone here kind of just expressed everything that I have to say. I've been in the Mandarin program for 5 years almost. This is going to be the 5th year, and I'm going to push for 6. I've never seen anything I've never seen more effort put into a single program, and there's only one teacher that she's the soul of the program. I've never seen anything like it. I've been here for 5 years, and I'm going to graduate next year, and this is a huge part of my high school experience. This is something that I will this is something that I will definitely remember for the rest of my life. This is something that I won't regret, and that's the point of high school. It's the point to grow and to learn while not regretting anything. This is a sole experience of high school, and everyone here put their efforts into this. I've come here to put my effort into this just to keep it alive, just to keep the program alive. It deserves it. It deserves the effort. All of the effort that gets put in is bouncing right back and keeping this entire program alive. That goes for most of the other departments. Mathematics, I have a great teacher, and I don't want him to leave either. I certainly believe that the decisions should be made with the point of views of everyone else. The students, the parents, they deserve to have a voice in any final decisions that you're deciding to make. But everyone else here, they put their effort into this, and they expressed my feelings pretty well. I just want to say thank you to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Olave. Next, we have Sharad Mosiah. Can you please restate your name if I read that incorrectly, please?
Yes, good evening. This is Shaharzad Mujazza. I'm going to have my daughter Armita Mujazza to speak because I didn't know I have to write.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ramita Mojazza, and I'm in the 7th grade, and I'm here to talk about the Mandarin program. As you all know, our school is one of few who offers Mandarin as an option for world languages. This program prepares students for future encounters and makes the Greenberg Central School District stand out in the community. In my experience, staff members who are selected to teach this program are highly qualified and actively help students to learn and expand their knowledge of other cultures and traditions. Over the past few months, my Mandarin teacher has been dedicated to ensuring that we are learning to our fullest of ability and being advocates for the Mandarin culture. In addition to this teacher hosts a Lunar New Year celebration for all students in the school to enjoy. This allows for a better understanding of Mandarin and Asian heritage. The assembly provides not only information on Mandarin celebrations, but of other countries in the surrounding area. From students' point of view, this makes us feel seen and appreciated, as many of our cultures are rarely recognized. This teacher lights up the classroom like no other. Every day, my classmates and I genuinely look forward to our class and are excited about what we are going to be learning. This teacher puts her entire heart into teaching, and I hope everyone that stands before me today can understand that and hears what basically everyone in this room is saying about this particular teacher. My peers and I believe that our Mandarin teacher this year is an essential to our school and hope she continues to teach and inform future classes to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Michelle Rosito for track and field. Did I pronounce that wrong? Can you restate your name when you're at the podium so that I can get that accurately?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Granda, the track athlete who reached out regarding our track. I'm a freshman here at Woodlands High School.
Hi, my name is Alicia Owens, and I'm also a freshman and in my first year of track.
We both are dedicated athletes and love track along with our teammates. This year, our varsity team has 48 athletes enrolled in the program, and our modified team currently has 35 athletes. Since joining cross country last August, we immediately realized concerns about the track that needs to be discussed. We have a growing track program, and in order to continue to improve, grow, and help not only our current student athletes, but also our future athletes, we are asking for an updated track so that we can practice safely and be competitive with our neighboring schools. The first reason we need a new rubberized track is for the health of our runners. Since the track we run on is made of asphalt, many runners are prone to shin splints and knee problems. Because of this, several athletes quit because the track is taking a physical toll on their bodies. Our track team not only supports runners, but has been working with the soccer, basketball, and football teams to keep all student athletes in shape during their off-season. Injuries that occur on the track can hurt their chances of succeeding in other sports. Shin splints are not easy to recover from since it happens because of contact with the hard surface, and if we don't have a new track, we cannot recover from that. Furthermore, our practices are limited because we can't really experience and practice field events or running events with spikes. Practicing without the correct shoes or the correct surface to run on limits the athlete. Our singular long jump pit is overgrown with weeds, and the cracks in the asphalt are a major tripping hazard. We don't have space for a high jump or shot put area. Currently, anyone who wants to try a field event only has the opportunity to do so at meets. This does not allow the student the chance to be great because their first time practicing the event is when they are actually doing it at an actual track meet. In other words, the current state of the facility does not allow us to train properly and increases our risk of injuries. If our track was updated, not only would we be able to host events to bring in revenue, but we could also rent our space to outside programs. Having a better track improves our ability to perform and will give us more opportunities for scholarships. As a freshman, I'm seriously thinking about going to college on a track scholarship. Without proper facilities, this makes my goal a real challenge. Colleges are more likely to recognize a student's talent if they see them at their full potential. Track runners at Woodlands are talented, but they hurt their joints running on this track and not being able to proceed to running track in college. Our coaches and counselors work really hard to help us train, learn how to manage being a student athlete, learn how to apply for college and athletic scholarships, and help us for life after Woodlands. Every year, our coaches take track athletes to county and state meets where a few have been able to qualify. Imagine how strong our program could be if we had facilities where our athletes could really train and succeed. We don't want to come here with only problems. We also want to offer solutions. Financially, if the school invests in an improved track, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to start from scratch and tear everything down that is there. There are companies that know how to work with these types of tracks that we have and can resurface it so that it is usable. Other challenges like the shot put, high jump, or long jump areas can be managed with new landscaping. Thank you for granting us this opportunity as a team to make a change for our athletes that can have so much potential in the future. The Woodlands track program will thrive so much with the improvements made to our facility.
Thank you, ladies. And we did hear from you, Miss Granda. Miss Granda, we did hear from you. Did you get my email? Reply? Okay, I did reply to you, so I will see if maybe I can route it to the superintendent to get to you. I don't know if maybe there's an issue with the email because it's a student email, I'm not sure. Also, our facilities chair did say the date of the next meeting, so maybe you guys can watch the meeting and or participate, okay? All right. That is it for all of our speakers this evening. I have no one else on the list, so we're going to move to the next item on our agenda, which is...
President Mayers?
Yes?
Are we allowed to just, can I just say how proud I am of the students of Woodlands High School,
I'm sorry,
middle school?
Trustee Washington.
I mean, that was phenomenal. That's empowerment of student voice. I mean, I don't want to talk about the topic, but oh This is the next generation. These are future doctor, lawyers, scientists that have come up and let their voices be heard. And I just have to stop and just say thank you for just inspiring me to go on. And I can't wait to see what you're going to be later on. And I'm looking for changes too. All right. Sorry, I'm done.
Thank you, Trustee Washington. Any other trustees with concerns, comments, anything? Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is A11, anticipated adjournment to executive session. Can I get a motion?
I move that we adjourn to executive session to discuss the employment history of particular persons being considered for board action this evening and at the next meeting.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. It's now 9:20 p.m. We are going into executive session. We have quite a long agenda. I anticipate probably about 2 hours, and then we will come out and complete the rest of the agenda. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Hope it's there. May 17th.
Good evening. We are returning from executive session. The time is now 12:45 a.m. And we're going to continue through our agenda to board action items. Can I get a motion to approve the board action items on the agenda?
I move that we approve the board action items presented to the board for approval this evening.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Let's move on to section C, where we are reviewing items for the next meeting. The public cannot see these items because they're not public yet, but they are items that the board will possibly approve in the next meeting. C1, any questions? C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7. We did have a discussion in executive session about C8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Any question on C14?
Yes.
Yes?
We have to do this in closed session. We did.
No.
No? Okay. C15?
Yes.
Yes?
Nothing specific, but I think there needs to be a little bit specific. We need to add specificity to C15. And I can email exactly what if it's not easily identifiable.
Yeah, can you maybe email?
Yes.
Just so that.
C15 specificity.
Yes. You can look at C14 for the specificity I'm looking for. Actually.
You want it to look like that.
C27, C28, C29, C30.
Sorry.
Okay.
I apologize. I should email this as well. C26, I think, needs a number added to the contract, the number of students.
Okay.
It's listed in the resolution, but not in the contract.
I don't know if you're able to make a note on that too, Joya. So moving forward, you'd like the number in all the contract written, the amount of students, correct?
Ideally.
In the resolution. Are you making note of that, Joya?
Yes.
So like C26 in the draft for next meeting, are you on it? Go ahead. So like, she's asking how many students are covered under this.
The resolution
The
actually,
resolution
the resolution
has-
contract itself does not.
The contract.
Oh, I'm sorry,
So-
I misunderstood.
No, I think the contract needs to possibly be adjusted.
Thank you. I was not following correctly. Okay, so we're done with C. Can I get a motion? Oh, no motion, sorry. We're gonna move on to items D. D1, work session approvals, we did those, and D2 is new business. Is there any new business items, trustees? No, I did have an item, trustee, Dr. Iverson. I wondered whether or not the administration would consider looking at the amount of money that we pay for co-curricular activities. It's a co-curricular, extracurricular, it's very late, so. It's extracurricular activities in relation to some of our, neighbors and cohorts, and whether or not we pay a lower amount. And then, yes, for all the, for the coaches. I did send the email ahead of time to give you that. And I would like that information, how much we pay in relation to some of our neighbors. And that is it for new business for me. Anyone else have any new business items? No? Okay. Can I get a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. The meeting is over at 12:50 p.m. 12:50 a.m. Good night.